Her husband tricked her into a mental hospital to steal her inheritance. But inside she hacked the system, flipped the staff, and turned the trap into a takeover. When she got out, he went in, screaming the truth, and no one believed him. The twist? She planned it all. It started with a glass of wine and a quiet evening, the kind where the world feels soft and safe and familiar. I remember the stem of the glass between my fingers, the flicker of candlelight in his eyes, and the way my husband, Julian, said, "Babe, I think you should talk to someone. Just for peace of mind." He was gentle, reassuring, too rehearsed. But I was tired from running the family estate after my father's death, tired from lawyers, tired from being told that grief comes in stages when really it comes like a freight train. So I nodded. And 2 weeks later, I was in a locked psychiatric facility. Let me be clear, I wasn't crazy. I wasn't unstable. I wasn't even mildly irrational. I was grieving. But Julian? He'd planted seeds for months. Telling friends I wasn't sleeping. Telling our housekeeper I misplaced things. Telling my doctor I was confused and paranoid. All while pretending to hold me together. He was building a case. And I didn't see it. When they admitted me, it wasn't in handcuffs or a straitjacket. It was worse. It was with pity. That awful, syrupy kind. Nurses with soft voices. Doctors who never looked you in the eye. A clipboard of your history that wasn't yours but somehow stuck. "You said your husband was trying to hurt you," one of them whispered during intake. I didn't. Not yet. But I would. My room had white walls, scratchy sheets, and a camera in the corner with a blind spot in the far right. I filed that detail away immediately. That's how my brain works, always looking for the next crack in the glass. They gave me pills. I pocketed every third one. They gave me group therapy. I listened more than I spoke. They gave me 15-minute phone calls. I used mine to call my lawyer's assistant, not the lawyer. Less suspicion that way. I started mapping the facility in my head like a chessboard. Because Julian thought he put me in a cage. What he didn't realize, he'd handed me a lab. The first friend I made was Kendra, a nurse with a caffeine addiction and an ex-girlfriend who still sent her Taylor Swift playlists. Kendra was sharp, overworked, disillusioned. Perfect. So I started small, jokes during vitals. Compliments on her tattoos. Guessing which drink she'd order that day from the vending machine. Week 3 she smuggled me a real toothbrush. Week 5 she gave me 10 extra minutes in the rec room. By week 7, she was bringing me her old iPad on night shifts. "Just don't get caught, girl." She thought she was doing me a favor. She didn't realize she was giving me access. With the iPad, I got into the hospital's internal server through a loophole I remembered from my pre-law days. With the server I found my own file. And Julian's name. He'd requested my admission using emergency guardianship powers, which I'd unknowingly signed over when I was too exhausted to read a document he handed me 2 months after the funeral. He said it was estate paperwork. I remember signing it in a daze. Now I saw what it had bought him. Full access to my inheritance. Full legal control of my decisions. And an indefinite psychiatric hold clause in the fine print. That's when I stopped crying. And started scheming. I built my plan in stages. Stage 1, earn trust. Stage 2, create inconsistencies. Stage 3, make him look unstable. I planted little seeds. I began forgetting details in front of the doctor. Smiling when I shouldn't. Confusing timelines in ways that seemed just off enough to raise concern, but not red flags. Just little yellow ones. It made them watch me closer. Perfect. Because that meant they were watching when Julian came to visit. He brought flowers. Said he missed me. Told me I looked better. I smiled and thanked him. Spoke softly. Let him think I was slipping back into the woman he gaslit into silence. Then I said loud enough for the nurse nearby to hear. I had the dream again. The one where you put something in my tea. His face twitched. Just a little. But the nurse caught it. That was the beginning of the end, for him. He thought he'd locked me away in silence. But I was just learning the building. Learning the language. And when I walked out, he was going in. They say if you pretend to be something long enough, you become it. But I wasn't pretending to be crazy. I was pretending to be compliant. That's much more dangerous. By the second month, I knew the hospital better than some of the staff. I knew which nurse always left her clipboard on the desk during smoke breaks, which techs never changed their passwords, and how long I had to move between camera blind spots before triggering a silent alarm. Kendra kept sneaking me her iPad, thinking I was binging reality shows in secret. In reality, I'd cracked the login of a junior administrator who used his birthday as a password. Through that, I accessed the therapy logs, facility schedules, and, Most importantly, the visitor database. I tracked every visit Julian made, every whisper to the front desk, every time he asked about progress. He was building his own case now, a second one, to extend my stay. Too bad I was already building his padded room. I had already sown enough doubt in my doctors to make them start pausing. That was the key. Not panic. Not outrage. Just tiny delays. A long blink. A misplaced question. A strange smile at the wrong moment. I could feel the shift. Suddenly they weren't talking to me like I was a danger to myself. They were talking to me like I was a puzzle. Enter Dr. Heller, my assigned therapist. Harvard grad. Obsessed with truth as liberation. Thought he could fix anyone with eye contact and breathing exercises. He also had a habit of leaving his laptop open while pacing. I waited until week 3 to strike. It was just after our Tuesday session. He stepped out to grab water. I reached into my sock and pulled out the phone Kendra had slipped me. Wiped, jailbroken, burner account linked to a cloud drive. I copied everything I could. In 3 minutes, I had Heller's notes, his session videos, and his personal messages to the board. He didn't think I was unstable anymore. He thought I was faking. And he was worried. Good. That night, I uploaded my entire medical file to a private investigator my family's estate had once used during a property dispute. I didn't sign my name. Just attached my case ID in 3 words. Follow the money. Because here's the thing. Julian wasn't just accessing my inheritance. He was draining it. The PI traced a series of transactions from my trust to a luxury account in Julian's name. Real estate in Marbella. A yacht. F*** and a yacht. Asterisk. While I was stuck in paper gowns and fluorescent lighting, he was out there sipping champagne on my father's money. That was his fatal mistake. He got comfortable. So I set the trap. I asked Dr. Heller to schedule a couples session with Julian. Said I was ready to reconcile. Said I wanted to take steps toward forgiveness. It was all I had to say. The request made it into my chart, flagged as significant progress. Julian showed up 3 days later, wearing his softest smile and his most expensive blazer. The bastard looked relieved. Like he believed the con was complete. We sat across from each other under warm lamplight. Dr. Heller observed like he was watching 2 lab rats fall in love again. Julian reached out to take my hand. I let him. I smiled. And then I said, I forgive you, Julian. And when this is over, I hope you'll forgive me too, for everything you're about to lose. Dr. Heller blinked. Excuse me? I turned to him and slid a flash drive across the table. Encrypted documentation. Financial records. Evidence of coercion, psychological abuse, and misappropriation of funds. I've been recording our sessions, Dr. Heller. Every one of them. I thought you'd want to know what you've been part of. His face drained. Julian's hand dropped mine like it burned him. She's lying, he started. No, Heller whispered. She's not. It all happened fast. Board reviews. Legal counsel. Internal investigations. And then, the emergency hold. Not for me. For him. Turns out when a therapist and 2 nurses corroborate a detailed, evidence-backed report of psychological manipulation, you don't walk out of the hospital. You stay. They transferred Julian to a secure wing within 72 hours. He screamed my name as they led him away. Begged me to tell them the truth. I almost laughed. Because I was telling the truth now. And nobody believed him. Poetic, isn't it? Kendra passed me a keycard during our last night shift together. You didn't deserve to be in here, she said. No, I replied. But I learned a hell of a lot while I was. I walked out 2 weeks later, cleared, clean, and in full control of my estate again. Julian? He's still in there. Says I set him up. Says I brainwashed the staff. Says I stole his life. But the beautiful thing is, nobody believes a word. Because when a woman comes out of a psychiatric facility calm, composed, and collected, and a man inside keeps screaming conspiracy, guess who they think is crazy? The sun in Marbella hits different when you're the one holding the deed. I landed 3 weeks after Julian's admittance. The hospital had gone quiet. His lawyers backed out. My legal team, now rebuilt with people who didn't secretly answer to him, had frozen every offshore account and initiated proceedings to reverse all financial transfers under duress. But there were still holes. There were still ghosts in the wire. And I wasn't about to let Julian's lies rot in a vault in Spain. The villa sat on a hill overlooking the sea, wrapped in jasmine and arrogance. It was the kind of house you'd find on a billionaire's Pinterest board. Imported tiles, infinity pool, black marble kitchen. I wore sunglasses and a white linen dress when I arrived for the tour. The real estate broker had no idea who I was. To him, I was Eva Carlin, an investor from Paris. He showed me around like I wasn't reclaiming what was already mine. This place was purchased last fall by an American investor, he said, opening the wine cellar. Private trust. New money. Rarely here. Oh, I said, smiling. Must be nice. I already knew. The deed was in the name of Eros Asset Holdings, a shell company Julian created 3 months after I signed that guardianship document. He'd used my money to buy my future without me in it. But here's what Julian didn't know: the shell company wasn't clean. He'd gotten lazy. One of his associates left a digital trail linking the holding firm back to a man named Evan Laird, Julian's college roommate and former hedge fund pariah. The moment we traced it, I had leverage. Evan cracked fast. Under pressure from Spanish authorities, faced with a frozen account and the threat of fraud charges, he sent me everything: transaction logs, email correspondence, offshore documentation, and most importantly, a name. My best friend, Claire. Clara had been in my life since undergrad. Maid of honor at my wedding. Godmother to the dog Julian refused to walk. She was the kind of friend who always knew too much and asked too little. She also managed my family's legacy trust, which meant she had access Julian never should have had. She told me it was Julian who called her the night I was admitted. Told her I needed time. That I was emotionally spiraling. That he had everything handled. She believed him. But there were emails, bank approvals, signatures, and one deposit into a numbered account in the Caymans. Claire didn't just believe him. She was in on it. I didn't confront her right away. Instead, I invited her to lunch. The same cafe where she cried to me about her divorce. Same table. Same stupid lavender tea she always ordered. I let her talk about how strong I was, and how glad she was to have me back. I let her hug me twice. I let her tell me she'd always suspected something was wrong with Julian, but didn't know how to say it. Then I slid the envelope across the table. Inside, proof of her wire transfer. And the deed to the Marbella house. She blinked once. Then again. I can explain, she said. No, Clara, I whispered. You can't. You know the thing about betrayal? It doesn't hit like a bomb. It hits like a slow exhale. Like air leaving a room you didn't know was full of smoke until it clears. I told her she had 2 choices. Full cooperation with the authorities. Testify against Julian. Surrender all fiduciary records. Watch her name go public with the fraud case and lose her license, her job, and her freedom. She chose wisely. That afternoon I returned to the villa, this time with my lawyer and the notary. By the end of the day, Eros Asset Holdings was no longer Julian's shell. Was mine. And with the documentation we uncovered, the Spanish courts had all they needed to seize his remaining offshore funds and initiate international fraud proceedings. But more than the money, I wanted the narrative. Julian hadn't just stolen from me. He tried to erase me. And now, his face was on Interpol's financial crimes watch list, stamped with the words, currently under psychiatric hold pending legal review. I sat in that marble kitchen that night, barefoot, drinking wine I paid for with my own damn legacy. And I realized something. Revenge doesn't taste like blood. It tastes like restoration. They always say the truth sets you free. But that's only if someone believes it. For months no one believed me. Not the doctors, not the board, not even my closest friends. My own signature was used to lock me away, and every time I opened my mouth to scream he did this, they gave me pills and said rest, dear. But now they listen. Because now I'm the one holding the mic. And Julian? He's just a story I get to tell. It all came to a head 3 weeks after I claimed the villa. I was back home, my home, not the one I was dragged from in pajamas and panic, standing in front of the estate trustees, legal counsel, and a forensic accounting team I'd handpicked myself. We were doing a full audit of the family fortune, tracing every dollar that passed through Julian's greedy little fingers. The fraud was staggering. Shell companies, luxury assets, bribes. He even tried to fund a startup under an alias, a wellness tech app of all things. Called it Sanity Sync. Cute. But the real prize wasn't just getting my money back. It was exposing him. And for that, I needed to go public. It started with a quiet press release. An op-ed. My name, my words. A carefully worded expose about psychological coercion, systemic failure in institutional mental health, and the silent epidemic of financial abuse behind closed doors. No names were mentioned. But oh, everyone read between the lines. I went viral overnight. People reached out. Survivors. Advocates. Attorneys. Even a former nurse from the Psych facility who privately DM'd me and said, I remember you. I always knew something was off. Julian's former law firm? They issued a public apology. His hedge fund contacts? Gone. His accounts? Frozen. And then came the cherry on top. The trial. Yes, they charged him. Financial fraud. Misuse of power of attorney. Medical coercion. Identity falsification. Clara testified under immunity. The therapist I'd flipped provided video evidence. Even Sandra Kim, yes, that's Sandra, returned with her own documentation from back when Julian tried to involve her in forging my mental health records. Turns out she'd been waiting for the day he tripped. He tripped. And I handed her the rope. He took the stand in a fitted suit and trembling hands, trying to act composed. He looked smaller somehow. Older. The institution hadn't been kind to his ego. He said I manipulated the system. That I gaslit him. That I planned it all. The courtroom was silent. I didn't even flinch. The judge just stared at him like a bug under glass. They found him guilty on 5 counts. He'll serve 3 years in a psychiatric prison minimum. More if he doesn't improve. Well, the irony. After the verdict, reporters swarmed me outside. One woman asked if I ever thought I'd get my revenge. I smiled. I didn't want revenge, I said. I wanted my voice back. She nodded like she understood. But I could tell she didn't. Because what I didn't say was that this was always part of the plan. He taught me how to lie. He just never thought I'd use it better than him. Now, I sit on the board of 3 women's rights organizations. I do speaking events, podcasts. I write under my real name again. I've rebuilt everything he tried to take from me. And more. Because he didn't just make me crazy. He made me dangerous. They say the best revenge is living well. But honestly, the best revenge is watching the person who called you delusional scream the truth into a room full of people who finally know better. And not one single soul believes him.